Hey, everybody, and we are live tonight. This is our inaugural show. We've had a couple practice sessions, but we are live tonight. We are 5 Black people in Tampa and Atlanta just getting together on a Tuesday night to talk about the issues that are important to Black folks prior to this election coming up on November 8th. So our first topic tonight, and as I introduce the topic for tonight, then we will bring on our panelists who will introduce themselves and we'll just get going. Our topic tonight is, do you guys remember Biden's appeal to the voters to secure 2 Senate seats so he can pass Democrat priorities? Well, one of the questions is, what are Democrat priorities and where do Black people fit into that? So the current outlook, according to media commentators, Democrats are expected to lose the House. We're expected to lose it, but may be able to keep the Senate. There are 35 seats up for grabs in the general election. 4 are considered toss-ups. Now, that's where we believe the opportunities are. The shocker last year was the Abrams Effect. Everybody knows what happened with Stacey Abrams. She rose to fame as she collectively pulled Georgia together, and they won those 2 Senate seats that nobody 2 Republican Senate seats that nobody expected that they would win. So it was slim margins. So does the Black voting electorate this year have a plan to affect the election outcome one way or the other? So where are those opportunities for the Black voting bloc with Biden's 2-seat requests? Of the 35 seats, 1 is in Georgia. That's Warnock versus Walker. The other one is in Pennsylvania. That's Fetterman versus Oz. Arizona is the third, Kelly versus Masters, and the 4th is Nevada. In Nevada, Masto versus Lexalt. So those are 4 Democrat candidates up against 4 MAGA Republicans who are running for those Senate seats. Now, the question is, where do Black people stand on getting those Senate seats? What do we expect to get for our votes? So I'm going to bring in the panel. And I'm going to just ask them to say hi from Atlanta and or Tampa, wherever they're from. Let's start with Albert from Atlanta.
St. Louis for a while, and now I'm down here still in the process of, as they would say, freedom fighting. I picked that up from being at home, I guess, with my parents, and they always talked about justice and equal rights. And so here I am trying to add to the conversation.
All right, awesome. And next we've got my girl, Mona. I want to say Celeste, but Mona from Tampa. Born and raised. And we've got another Tampa. I want to say Tampa, but not born and raised, Ken Harris.
Hi, Ken Harris, originally from Brooklyn, New York. I am an IT manager. That's what I do, but that's not what I am. I consider myself an artist and an educator. So it's good to be on the panel.
All right, good. Glad to have you. And Alton, also from Atlanta.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Yes, Alton Drew from Atlanta. Been here now for so many years, I forget. 14 years. 14 years. So great to be on the show. Looking forward to the discussion.
All right, so let's get right to it. So Black priorities. Biden has asked us to, not us, just in general, the voters to deliver 2 Senate seats. Now, Blacks can impact voting. We know this. Who gets into those seats? So I want to bring your attention to a video. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, see if I can share my screen with you guys. Give me a moment. Share video. Just give me a moment. Cancel. All right. Let me know if you see what I'm seeing. Click share. Can you see my screen? All right.
I was gonna say even that deal that you're just talking about now, it's not perfect, but it will certainly go a long way to help people in Wisconsin. We've been hurting for far too long, and we desperately need to lower costs as soon as possible to help people deal with inflation. And letting Medicare negotiate drug prices is a huge step forward. And we also need to cut taxes on the middle class to give people some breathing room. And we also need to hold oil and gas companies accountable for using inflation as a smokescreen to jack up prices on consumers, and pharmaceutical companies as well. Now, everywhere I go, people talk about how they're struggling, and I know those struggles. They're my struggles too, and that's why we're keeping Ron Johnson.
All right, let's see if I can unshare. All right, so that was a clip, everyone, from Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. He's running for the Senate seat in Wisconsin. And what he was doing with the commentator was he was listing all the priorities. And what I noticed was none of the priorities had anything to do with the Black community specifically. It had to do with the entire community, which is what I think one of the issues are. So I'm going to ask you as the panel tonight, is now the time for Black voters to focus on our issues important to just the Black community? And should our issues right now be listed among mainstream commentators? Nobody is talking when they're listing climate change. They're listing things like abortion rights now. That's at the top of the list. We all saw what happened in Kansas. And the women came out in droves, Republican, Independent, and Democrat, to pretty much say no to the limits or the restrictions they were putting on women's rights, if you will. Somehow they were able to come together and make something happen, and they got the attention of the nation. Is it time for Blacks, especially with Biden's request for those 2 Senate seats, to take a stand on issues that are important to us?
We have a dilemma, to me, in the sense that it's like going to a restaurant and the only 2 things you got to order on the menu is Brussels sprouts and asparagus. And you think to yourself, is that it? And that's where we find ourselves. Do we stay with a quote unquote Democrat? Do we go and go with a Republican? I almost said defect. I mean, that's how much conscious has become in terms of us saying that for some reason we are Democrats and we're not. We have interests as Black people that we need to start asking about. And they've been asking us, the Democrats have been asking us to forego those concerns in favor of the Democrats. And I'm saying, if not now, when?
Be clear on what the issues are so that they can be adopted. I don't know that we're clear.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going to go with it is there has to be a definition, an across-the-board definition of where we intersect, whether we're middle class, whether we're poor, whether we're even affluent. There's a point of intersection. And if you look at any matrix type of business or type of management or type of project style, you'll have points of intersection. There may be 75 things that affect all Black people, whether you're Gen X, whether you're a baby boomer, whether you're millennial, Gen Z, but there are points of intersection. I think with regard to what Joe Biden's talking about, what we have to understand is that our government operates kind of like pyramid style. So you're going to get less air the closer to the top that you get. So what we've got to do, to the extent that there is or is not intersection, is that on the lower levels of government, your alder people, your state level people, your local level people, that's where you begin to have the definition of where the intersection lies. And I don't think we're all that far away, because if anybody gets a couple of beers and starts talking about politics, you have a lot of things that you agree on. You start to talk about where you live, you have a lot of things that you agree on. There's that, and there's equity. As I said once before, a dollar spent in, say, Pasco County is not the same as a dollar spent in Hillsborough County. And furthermore, a dollar spent in certain parts of Pasco County is not the same. So there's the issue of equity, and there's the issue of intersection. If we can define that, begin to affect that locally, as those people rise in politics, you begin to get the basis for, hey man, we've been raising money for you for this amount of time. We've been delivering votes for you for this amount of time. We need this. So when you go to Tallahassee, as the case may be, the idiocy capital of the Southeast, we need these things. When you get up there, talk about them. So that's kind of what I see as kind of like where we are jumping off point.
Say 90 some odd days, over the next 90 some odd days, we don't have time. We neither have a short-term or a long-term strategy. And at this point, I'm not sure what we should be doing to answer that call.
Can I push back on something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that we have a short-term or a long-term. Why would we not have a short-term and a long-term?
Well,
I don't think any of this is because, yeah, we have 90 days till the next election cycle, but we don't have 90 days to live. So, maybe we are not as good at it this time around. We get a little better at it next time around. We get a little bit better. We gain momentum, so that over time, there's a tsunami effect to us being able to express and exert what we want, because, we've been kind of trickling. We don't have that tsunami going. So that's all I say.
Yeah, but do y'all see what's happening out there in the political and the public sphere? I mean, it is crazy. Today, as Trump's Mar-a-Lago got raided, what was that, yesterday? The troops are starting to mobilize, if you will. And I think the upcoming election, the next two, are going to be critical. And if they are not of some consequence to Black folk, our jobs are going to be a lot harder. Or let me say this, our children's job are going to be much harder than ours were. Alton, it sounds like you had something to say.
In our terms is very important. We have to find that that common ground, if you will, and it also leads to an existential question. I think we band together. Well, let me back up a little bit. I don't think we have properly defined ourselves as a people. Yes, we're I don't like the phrase. I don't like the term Black. I use it now for reference. Yeah, we're a Black people, but in our search for that intersection, we need to find a value system that we can take into that we can use moving forward, which getting to Ken's point, where we can do both. Because once we have that value system laid down, once it's developed and implemented, that takes us definitely over the long game, and it's going to be helpful also in the short game once that is developed. So where we can definitely work both of them, because we need to definitely know who we are as a people, that we're not monolithic, but there are commonalities that are under threat from the changes in the system, in the political system and in the economic system. Regarding what can be done over the next 90 days, I agree with Jeanette. It's a very closed window, and this is August. So nationally, the Senate and the Congress, I believe they're on August break. they're not doing anything but campaigning, and they're not doing anything when they get back. So when we're looking for an ask legislatively, that window's already shut, at least on the national level. Um, Regarding Biden and his quest for 2 seats and how we can impact that, I think the initial attack point would be here in Georgia. You know, if we had 6 months, a great plan would be, look, it sounds like you definitely want Stacey Abrams, Mr. Biden. You want a Democrat governor. But what are you prepared to give us to get her? I mean, you're just banking on the fact that she's black, so we're going to come out and vote for her. But, I've been hearing some rumblings amongst us, and yeah, she's going to get a lot of black support, but she's not going to get, in my opinion, that overwhelming black support. However, a win on her part provides the party with leverage in that, okay, here it is that you have a black woman now serving as governor. What else can the Democratic Party do for you? Well, you have to do more than that. And that's what we have to flesh out. So we have to flesh out what we want now, regardless of whether or not she wins. And definitely, if she were to win, what is the ask? What do we get in return for this? But we have to pose that question before the election. Again, again, the National Party gets an advantage because they can use as the poster child. But then I'll close with this. But I also believe that one strategy we should be looking at is the local state strategy. I think that's where the power, if any political power for blacks, really lies. When we get national, it gets very diluted. We're 13% of the population, with 200 plus million voting population. So that's tough. But if we can work on controlling the urban areas, local areas, that's a start. Kind of a Republican strategy. Not to say a preference for that party, but Republican strategy with a small r, because they focus on state elections. And
see, here's where it falls short for us. Here's where it falls short for us. Even at a national level, we're 13%. Even we're a higher percent in Georgia, but only in pockets. So if we base it simply on a state strategy, that's what got us and kept us into slavery as long. If you go back and look at history, that state strategy, federal government don't get involved with what's going on. Now, let me take you back to something else Alton said real quick. Last time they said, give us 2, we gave them 2. We gave them Warnock, and we gave them the what's the other guy? I can't think of his name now, from Georgia. We gave them both. And then all of a sudden now there was another excuse. So when we give them what they ask for and we still don't get anything in return, that creates a bit of disillusion in the minds of people. And we start asking, what's the point? So how do we deal with that?
Was a lot of nonsense, flam, and deception, getting people, and it comes down to where the Democrats are very weak. You got to stop beating the far left in the head and treating them like children. What people want, people want. It doesn't matter if I'm doing it at a dinner party, the Met Gala, or at a cookout in my backyard. It doesn't matter if I'm yelling "Burn, baby, burn." What I want is important to me. And I'm not me by myself. So again, like I agree with Albert 100%. This decentralization and creating 50 fiefdoms where the governors are 50 kings, no, sir, no, ma'am. But certainly, I think getting a collective of people who understand that, what you want is valid and it's valid to you. Express it, coalesce behind it, caucus behind it locally, and then have the influences, because the local government is what influences your everyday life. The U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress and the executive branch don't influence your everyday life. They influence the broad stroke. But what influences your everyday life is the local governments. And I agree 150,000% that that's where the influence needs to be. And you know what? That's where the information is hard to find. That's where you got to work hard to find out who these people are. And people have to understand it's okay to do that. You can do Google searches to find out what's the hottest Converse shoe out. You can find out, do web searches to find out what's the most popular bag. What did Barry Bonds hit in 2000, right? Well, do the research like that. I'll tell a really quick story and then I'll stop talking. When my daughter voted for the first time, we sat in the car. She had her iPhone, I had an Android because I'm Gen X and she's Gen Z, so she can have that Apple phone. For 45 minutes before we went in, researching and looking at who these people are and who we maybe should vote for on local level. That's the kind of thing that today has to be done. There are databases that can be created. My buddy has an idea. I have a buddy up in New Jersey who has an idea for creating a database where you can click on people, find out how they voted, how they've been voting, that kind of thing. But we have to engage locally, because if we don't engage locally and if we don't coalesce locally, we're going to have those 50 fiefdoms and we're going to have a problem, a severe problem.
So are you saying it's a local focus or a national focus?
I think you have to have the intellectual agility to have both. There is no one lane or the other. You look at freeways, the most effective freeways have, 4 and 5 lanes. Well, I think people have to indoctrinate their thinking, get away from this either or kind of thinking and move, towards a more agile way of looking at the world so that you can say, okay, maybe I am pro guns because you know what? It's about to go down. But I'm anti-abortion because my cousin and my daughter and my, auntie are likely to need these services. So you have to have a certain amount of intellectual agility in order, because we're in a time where the tail's wagging the dog. The tail just is wagging the dog in politics. So let's wag that thing. Let's wag it.
Is it time for us to leave the Democrat Party?
Yes.
Count on that.
I think the two-party system has failed us miserably.
I'm going to give that to
That's what we've got. That's what we've got to work with.
Yeah. I'm going to give that question that Albert just posed to Mona. Is it time?
Sorry, Mona.
I think it's time that we split the vote. We don't have to go all Republican, especially after what we just saw and what we're seeing now. It's hard sometimes to say I'm just going to go straight Republican, but I certainly do think that we should not be voting down ballot. We can't do that. If you notice what's going on right now, how all the candidates are vetting the Latino votes. We're going to give them almost 95% of the Black vote. They know that without a doubt. They're not even coding us for our votes anymore. All what I'm saying around the country is what they're doing for the Latinos. So yeah, I think we definitely have to withhold the votes sometimes and go the other party. Absolutely.
But the two-party system benefits only the two parties. No matter what you may say, you might go vote for one of those two, but in the final analysis, their power structure is designed to control, because they now have the control enough that they can give
We're not the only ones that are the pawns.
I don't care, but we're not here to talk about anybody else. To me, we're here to talk
to look at from a Black perspective again, because when policies are handed down from that ivory tower up there from the two parties, it is, and supposedly is for Black people, is really for all those pawns down there, and Black people get left out every single time because again, we're only 13% of the population. Our poverty is only 9 million compared to theirs at 17 million raw numbers. So who is benefiting from these social programs? Not Black people, except it has a Black face on it. So we have to, like I think Alton said, we got to define ourselves and really understand who we are and then decide what that goal is. And that goal needs to be one or two solid things that we're going to go to the polls and vote for in November. And that's what we haven't done. I don't know what Stacey Abrams and all of those those organizations did to galvanize all of those people, not just Black, but Asians and white folks. They all voted for those two senators, Warnock and Ossoff. What was the commonality that drove them to the polls? But that's not all who went to the polls, women Democrats, if you will. But that's not the only folks that went to the polls and voted to no on that referendum. How do we figure that out as Black folks, that we go to the polls and we have an agenda? There's a reason that we're going to, push for that. Because I don't believe Georgia, with all that work y'all did, what did we get?
We got Ossoff and Warnock.
What did we get?
Yeah. Ossoff and Warnock. Bottom line, nothing.
Right. More window dressing.
Anybody?
Yeah, but I think, 2020 was interesting because of of Agent Orange, but and he was a galvanizing. Anything related to him was enough to get people out to vote for Ossoff and Warnock.
Right.
On the side, neither one of them impressed me. Ossoff is primping like he's getting ready to run for president. Warnock hasn't offered any kind of substance in terms of policy. As a matter of fact, I've even heard him try to take credit for stuff he hasn't done. Like broadband. I'm like, what? You just got here, kid. We're talking about broadband. People like me and everybody's been working on that stuff for 10, 15 years. You just got here. So, he's not impressive. Now, I think where Blacks tactically and strategically, one thing we may want to consider is going to that galvanizing point. Determine what that next galvanizing point is and neutralize it. Somehow, it's like it's like the Marines taking a beach. It's okay, we need that beach. That beach is important to them, so we're going to take it. So whatever that galvanizing issue is, we have to find a way to take ownership of it and say, the reason for your existence politically, I now own. So you have to come to me. Now, the specifics, I still got to work out. That's just a brain fart. But when you mention, what got these people into, that's what new black leadership needs to create. They need to create that galvanizing issue, and it's not going to be climate change or none of that other.
Exactly.
I got enough money so I can talk about esoteric nonsense. No, it's not going to be that. It has to be, again, something on the level, on the ground. I'm gonna tell you, when I go into a grocery store and I hear only Black people doing this, okay, on the phone, honey, this one's 50 cents and this one 20, that hurts me. That hurts me. I was telling some a politician here in Atlanta that if the Federal Reserve, for this is an example, if they had true boots on the ground, if they were really listening to real people like us and following us around and hearing what our economic concerns are and what we're seeing, this nonsense about transitory inflation would have never come out of their mouths. They'd have said, whoa, inflation is here because these people on this spectrum are going through XYZ. We got accurate information. So is that kind of territory that we need to take ownership of and say, it could be a simple thing like, your information is wrong. This is the correct information. We have it over here. Oh, and that's why you have to listen to us. Not climate change, not, Snoopy hugging trees. No, none of that. This is the real deal right here. And if you don't do something about it, and we have to paint that narrative. If you don't do something about it, this will happen. And it may be as simple as that. But yes, find that galvanizing issue and rewrite the narrative around it and make it sound scary as shit. Because that's the only thing that are going to move them. A narrative that goes directly toward their bliss. And then I'll say in closing, because here in Atlanta, the guys up in DC say, "Oh, we're in a recession." No, we're not in a recession. When I'm sitting down, walking up and down the street, whatever, looking at people, I'm like, "There's a recession? Really? These people out here spending, drinking, eating, they're having a good time. Why is that?" Once we understand that why, then you can strike at that to say, no, you've been living in la la land. Here's the reality, and we're just bringing you back into reality. That's the kind of political art that needs to take place. And we don't have the leadership. Those guys up in DC, the CBC, whomever, they don't have that kind of vision. They're busy trying to raise campaign funds from.
But see, Alton, let's go back to, you're talking about people out here spending. Their credit card debt is going up every day.
Yes, right.
And they are not everybody is spending just because they want to spend. That I'm at the point now, I'm going in and going like, man, that's up $2, or that right there is up 50 cents the other day at the store. And when you start adding pennies up like that at the end of the month, next thing you know, you're behind. So how do you keep up? How do you maintain? And what happens with the maintaining is you end up using credit cards, you end up going into debt. You then start trying to keep and maintain the life that you had when you were having fun. So here's the trick to me. They go up on gas and they go up to $5 a gallon here. Everybody jumps and screams. So then they lower it to $4.50, and then they turn around and sell you on the idea that they just did you a favor by lowering it 50 cents instead of taking it back down to the $2 where it was. And see, that's the game that we've been caught up in. They push you so far out on the edge, and then they bring you back just far enough for you to go, whew, I'm glad I got through that. No, you didn't. You're now just waiting for the next trauma episode to happen, so that we're constantly in tension. So we've got to understand that and say to ourselves, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to get with my other black friends, and I know who they are. All I know is if I look at you and you got the potential to be a George Floyd, then you with me, whether you want to be with me or not. If I go out here and you walking through with your Gucci bags and all that, they undress you like they did the governor of Virginia one time, embarrassed him like crazy, then you're with me. And I'm trying to get all these people together to understand we have got to start selling our votes to the highest bidder to get what we want. Now, you keep saying, well, we don't know what we want. We can ask for anything as long as we get it. And then you start working up from there. This is like building a house. You put one brick at a time, and eventually that house will get built if you keep at it. That's my thought.
A Black agenda. They want to push a united agenda. Charlie Chris was just in Tampa at Tea and Conversation, and we particularly asked him what was the Black agenda, and he railed down his agenda. And when he talked about Blacks, I mean, we were number 4, and we particularly told him, coming into this setting, we want to know what you're going to do for the Black community. He couldn't say it, and he was amongst all Black people. He talked about the gay agenda, school, economics, which they think that's everybody. So yeah, they're afraid. Black politicians are afraid to talk about it because they're afraid that they'll lose the white vote. And certainly white people don't want to talk about reparation. That's got to be the number one. Now, how that looks, we're still figuring that out. But reparation has to be the number one thing that all Blacks are talking about right now. But we're too late on this election.
Talk about reparations, and they don't have to. They don't have to. And if they did, like you said, Mona, they're going to lose votes because the population, white and Black, are not on board with reparations. In fact, they don't even understand the history of the country that says this group deserves repair, if you will. So they can do issues that are specific to communities. LGBTQ, you just said it. Women's issues, we're talking about abortion rights. Took us a long time before we could even say abortions, right? And I'm not even sure Biden has said it yet. But Black reparations is nowhere near being accepted by this community, by the politicians, because the community doesn't accept reparations, Black and white.
But when it does, as in the case of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where you had a block of people who said, this is what we're talking about, we're not talking about nothing else, this is what you need to do. Or when you had that family in California who had their property taken away and reinstated at present value.
Bruce's Beach, yeah.
Yes. It can happen. But every community is not talking about it like this is what we're talking about, that's it.
So we need to start talking about it.
Are we ready to here's my question. Here's my question. Are we ready to stand down and not vote this time in 2022? Are we ready to say, let's everybody take a hit?
I'm going to tell you no.
Not with these daggone MAGAs, no.
Okay.
Well, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. I mean, what you think. I'm going to tell you no, we're not ready. Mona, what do you say?
I say I'm ready. A group of people, but the majority of the community is not.
Yeah, but
what's the worst that could happen to us? Because if you look at the statistics,
didn't we ask that
at the turn of slavery, we were worth 60% of a human being. Today, our value is 60% of a dollar. So we have not progressed any by participating in this process. So standing down, what more could happen to us? And maybe standing down and whatever happens will make us so mad, as Alton said, it will be a galvanizing force for us to get up and do something about it. But I'm serious. What is the worst that could happen now if we stand down in 2022?
For the husband,
we asked that question in 2016 and we found out.
Let's go with Alton. Alton, go.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with Albert on this point. Example, for the husbands out there and the formers, When you see your wife acting like she doesn't need you, that's when you get even more attentive. So if we don't show up to the polls, even if there's a 20% drop in black voting, it's gonna be that finger tapping on the shoulder. Okay, it's gonna get somebody's attention. Yeah, I'm all for sitting this one out. I agree with Mr. Fields. We have nothing to lose by sitting this one out. I was like, oh, okay, y'all go vote. Okay, that's good. I gotta go to work. You're gonna go to work. You're gonna go pay your bills, and life keeps moving on. These very same people who ignore blacks are the ones up for re-election, and paying them a little attention for 2 hours on election day isn't going to change anything for black people. But it's going to change. It may change something in them in their decision matrix when they look at the numbers and they see, well, only what is it? Only 40% of the black electorate came out, and we expected 80%. That's going to make them that when you have your most loyal constituents not show up, that's going to put something in there. And then, and also lastly, I'd like everybody to consider, the focus is on the political power, trying to get the government to do something. But I think we also have to consider how to get what we want once we decide what that is without them. That's another way to shake them at the core, because when government becomes less valid, then they realize they have a problem. When they're less needed, they realize they have a problem, and that's when they come around with a bigger goodie bag. So did we drop?
Push their politicians to do their bidding, if you will. We see that with the right, the far right, and finding that champion in Trump, and then totally turning the United States upside down. We could see that here. You guys remember seeing that? Did y'all see the Malcolm X movie? Anybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that one scene, they're marching to the hospital, and they're all marching, and then you got the people in the back, and the white guy says, the police, I don't know who he was, he says, y'all go home or send them home or whatever. And Denzel Washington, Malcolm X, turns around and he signals, and the men just turn, and then the people all hushed. They went quiet. And then they marched out. And the white guy's response was, that is too much power for one black man. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. With regard to not voting or abstaining from voting until demands or requests are met.
But that's where the power to be come in and divide us amongst ourselves. And we can't come together with, I would say, our black power brokers, local and statewide. We're going to always be divided that way, unless we ourselves put those people down who fight against the best interests of the black people.
Okay, but what is that galvanizing thing that I think Alton and I were talking about? There's got to be that thing that causes us to go to the polls to support that without this kumbaya moment. It's just that we just know it. It's kind of like that dog whistle amongst the black community that says that is what we can agree on.
Okay, Jeanette, you saw the dog whistle, and once they saw that you saw the dog whistle, they made sure that Biden got in this time. there were Republicans and Democrats to make sure that Biden got in because Trump had no control. They couldn't control him as much as they wanted, and he was the dog whistle. Alton has already expressed it. He galvanized everybody because he was so brazen in his activity that he let everybody see what has been going on all along. Biden did the same thing that Trump does, but just like Malcolm said, the difference between the wolf and the fox is the way that they devour you as opposed to whether one does or does not. They both do. Trump was just vulgar. That's his one big sin. He told white truths that we have always known, and he said it out loud. And they went, "Whoa, Bucko, you pulling back the curtain. We didn't want you to tell the secret. We just wanted you to do the deed." You see, because he was not the main man in charge. He was following some. I tell everybody, Trump was an echo. He was not the sound of that violence that we saw for his term in office. Yeah. And if we need that kind of galvanizing again, I don't think we're going to get it because they saw how we galvanize. And so what you do is you don't bring that to the table anymore. If you know that's what's going to upset us, you keep us just passive enough. If we just go like, why can't we all live together? I mean, that's what they're trying to do. So I'm saying it's going to take more than galvanizing. We just going to start saying, this is what we want, and if you don't give it to us, we're not voting. And they're going to say you're going to be hurt, and all you got to do is smile and walk away because you're going to be hurt with or without their help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand down, Jeanette. Stand down. Say it. Stand down in 2022.
Hashtag stand down.
Stand down 2022.
I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put it on Twitter.
I'll concede the point that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I would not say that strategically that there's one way to do things. I don't know that I can not vote. I don't like who I'm voting for, so there's that, right? So, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to stand down.
What's the logic in what you just said, Ken? You just said you don't like what you got to vote for. They give you a choice between strychnine and cyanide.
Let me ask you this, and I wanted to ask you this when we were talking before, right?
Okay.
You stand down. You got 4 to 6 years till we re-up? You got 4 to 6 years of MAGA until we re-up?
I do not believe that there was a big change between the time that Obama was in office and the time that Donald Trump. Other than one was more vulgar. Let's put it. The difference is okay. Let's put it like this: the difference between Richard Pryor and the way he cursed and the way that Sinbad delivered his comedy is not that big of a deal. Except Pryor cursed and Sinbad made sure he did not curse. They both told jokes. And I'm going to say the same thing. The joke was on us with Biden. The joke was with Trump. So it's just the way that they told a joke, and that's what I'm saying.
Would you concede that Richard Pryor's humor in itself had more substance than Sinbad's humor?
No, I say no.
In 2016 and 2009, well, you can say it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can say it, but you're saying that you got 4 to 6 years of MAGA. You're willing to invest 4 to 6 years of MAGA in standing down.
I'm saying America gave President Obama, no, America didn't do it, but he got the Nobel Peace Prize and never did anything. It was a bunch of substance. We all had hope. He sold hope for 8 years. Let us do hope. And every time we said, let's get up and criticize some of the things he said, people would say, oh no, he's the first black president. You can't criticize that. So then
that stop
at the end of that cycle ended, then Trump came in, and Trump actually did 1 or 2 things to kind of calm some things down, even though he was vulgar on other things. And when the smoke cleared, we were in the same place and from 2008 as we were at the end of 2016. That's all I'm saying. Let's see some change.
Where did you want to be one versus the other?
Yeah.
I want to be better than 60% of a dollar. I want to be better than wealth of 5 cents to the white folks is $1. I want to be that better. See, now I can say, woo, that's real time.
Yeah, but to Ken's question,
but when you unlock your front door, what did you want to see differently? I'm curious. I'm asking.
Between Obama, okay, I wanted the killing to stop. That when they were sending drones overseas, just randomly bombing people. They were going overseas, taking over countries, taking over governments. I wanted all that to stop because that stuff came back around to hurt us. You see, I wanted to be able to walk. No, not look in my rearview mirror every time I saw a policeman and say to myself, "Oh my God, is it my time?" You know, I got this lottery ticket in the back pocket that says one of these days they're going to call my number. And when they get me out of the car, they're going to slam me on the ground. I wanted that to end. And it's the same as it was in 1965. Okay. We're still getting slammed to the ground.
How about this? How about this? How about this? There's about 9 minutes left. And hashtag stand down.
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Okay, I hear you, but Ken and I know Mona's with y'all on that, but I'm curious.
What's the but? What's the but?
If that is, let's say that Black folks go with that hashtag stand down 2022. What's the ask? What's the demand? And is it because it's already out there, given the work Black Lives Matter has done over the last couple of years, the whole police brutality thing, and that we're able to take that and create some concrete demands around that, and without those, it's kind of like just sort of pointing and everybody's turns around and goes in one direction at the command. What is that thing that already has some traction?
Ain't no thing for us. Ain't no thing for us. I'm telling you, we are on the outs right now. Number one agenda, LGBTQ. Number two agenda, women's right. And in parentheses, I got white women in front of that. Okay, because that's primarily what that's about. Okay.
Right.
You see, that's what I'm saying. The top agendas in America, they got us all focused on that. And
how did they get there? How did they get there? How did they get to LGBTQ? How in the world did they get
they've always been there.
Yeah, I heard a guy.
They I can only speak.
Are they galvanized?
They have. You mean the?
No.
What you see on the street is just the going back. I think it was Albert Akin said the echo.
Yeah.
Those are the minions. Okay, the people that actually have influence in that community have infiltrated corporations and governments for decades.
Yes.
So now to make sure that they maintain their positions, they have the minions out there talking all this inconsequential stuff, but making noise. They're not the power. You got the power. The galvanizers, the influencers are inside the halls of this capital, the halls of DC, the halls of, does IBM still exist? The halls of Facebook. That's where they are.
Well, where are we in those?
Here's what let me say it this way, Alton. I'm gonna say the same thing Alton said a little bit differently. And it works like this. Those groups are led by and run by. And start watching your commercials, start watching your TVs, and you'll see the theme of them going on, because now they're in your movies, they're in your education, they're in your religion, they're everywhere. They're claiming people now as a part of their quote unquote community that before they wouldn't even talk to because they were Black. You know, they call Shirley Chisholm a feminist woman's right, yet they wouldn't let her into that feminist movement. You see, but now they want to claim her as if they're doing anything. So I'm like Alton. What they're doing is they're taking us and pushing us to the side. And in fact, here's my prediction: in the next 5 or 6 years, more of the Hispanics will get their honorary white card. Oh yeah, they'll be able to walk around with all the privileges that white folks get a chance to do it, because now it increases their number, and you're not going to have any black, brown, red, and white. It's going to be black and white.
Which is why whites, WASP, are not afraid of the changes, because going to Albert's point, they're ready to hand out those white cards. Oh, you're from Puerto Rico, but you claim white on your whatever, and you share our values. Here's your honorary card. You've been introduced. So as long as they control capital, they don't care. Jeanette, you could be white. Albert could be white.
Here's a great example. But Alton, here's a great example. A friend of mine from Egypt, born and raised in Egypt, darker than Jeanette Bradley, showed me her driver's license in America. It said white. How can you be white? Look at you. He said, if I'm not from Southern Africa, if I'm not from these islands, I'm white. You hear me? Darker than Jeanette. That's all I'm saying. So you can get your card. You can get your card, and your card has value. It's like an American Express black card. It'll get you. Can't be a black card. It's American Express white card. Yeah,
White card.
yeah, it's got more power. Shoot.
We know that our vice president on her birth certificate, it is white. She is listed as white.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that this black woman, this AKA, this HBCU graduate, has on her driver's license white, and she has not changed that?
Her birth certificate.
A birth certificate.
And they have not changed that. And they have not changed that.
It has not been changed.
You can't change it. You can't change your birth certificate.
Oh,
You can. It's more, but transgenders are all into.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But do you see what I'm saying? And she has quietly. You cannot tell me that does not have value. If you know somewhere in the background at any moment you can pull up somebody say to you, "Prove to me that you're not black," and she goes, "Bam."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But to Jeanette's point, real quick, because Jeanette was asking, where are we in the halls? If we're there, that number is dwindling. And even if we're there, we're ineffectual.
We're very ineffectual.
Because we don't know who we are, so we try to be like them. And that is our biggest problem.
One of the things I think that we should stress about what is the ask. The rest of it should be for us, not for me, not for Ken, not for Alton, not for Jeanette or for Mona. Right. It's got to be for us. It's a collective, and if there's some question as to who we are, we'll sort that out at the end of the party. But it's everything that we're talking about has to be an ask for the group. Everybody. Otherwise, all we're doing is following the model that's been set up, that's tried and true. Go for yourself and let everybody else pray that they can get there too. But I'm going to get mine, so you better get yours. If you follow that model, then you will fail and we'll never get those asks answered.
All right, guys, great discussion tonight, but it sounds like, Ken, it's 3 against 2. But
hashtag.
But I am definitely on board with Black folks marching in the same direction. And if it's hashtag
stand down 2022.
If it's hashtag stand down.
I'm telling you, hashtag.
Y'all gonna mess around.
It will be on my Twitter account tonight.
I was about to say, y'all about to mess around.
It will be at midnight. It will be.
As soon as I get off of here, stand down 2022.
All right. I'm going to share that as well.
I know that's going to pop in my head at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It sounds like we're doing that. But I would like for us to talk about what is the ask for us? What is the ask? If it's hash down, stand down, what am I asking you to do that'll cause me to march to that poll and vote come November 8th?
Did you hear me? We ain't going to the poll. We're standing down. We ain't got to go.
Stand down, right?
We standing down to let you know that the next time you decide to ignore us, you better come to us and knock on our door.
All right, somehow I missed that last point. But guys,
No.
it was my pleasure talking to you guys. We are out of time. And to the listening audience, thank you very much for joining us. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Hashtag 2022.
22, stand down in 2022. And stand down.